Heyo, what is up, everyone? We are back in history through video games today. We're going to be in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. We're looking at the Temple Church. Pretty fitting for Assassin's Creed that you've got the Templars kind of as the enemies of the Assassins, and the Temple Church was in fact built by the Knights Templar. So it is something that I have had the opportunity to visit. However, the temple church that I visited is a different construction than the one that is present here, simply because of the Second World War. Germany did end up dropping some bombs through London, as you may know, through the Blitz, and because of the damage that was caused by the bombing, the church did have to get some renovations done. It has now a different circular church construction to it. There's a few things that are present in the video game that are no longer present in real up to date life for the church. But I just wanted to walk around and look at this church and see just kind of what is available for us to explore in the game, and just kind of give some history notes as we go. So the church itself was consecrated in February of 1185. It was built by the Knights Templar, and it was originally built just as that round church. So I'm going to climb up the wall here so you can kind of see a little more of the round church I'm talking about. The square church portion of it was not actually built originally. It was just the round church portion. So, through its history, it did get regular updates. It was turned into different portions. So there's that round church I'm talking about. It did get different portions added to it, like the rest of this church here. But it was also used as a burial site for different knights and public figures throughout time. So there are different death masks or effigies that you can see, burial effigies, that you can see that are still in the church currently. And I'll pull up the list of people who have been buried there. So there is a fair amount of people who are actually buried there. For the people who have historical significance, we've got William Marshall, the first Earl of Pembroke, William Marshall, the second Earl of Pembroke, Gilbert Marshall, the fourth Earl of Pembroke. So, I mean, those guys were living in the 12th century and 13th century. They were fighting in the Crusades. There were, if you go there and you have the opportunity to see these different death effigies, you'll see that some of them have their legs crossed, some of them have their swords with them, some of them have their swords drawn. They do have different plaques with those burials to let you know, like, there's a reason that their legs were crossed. It means that they were either over in the Holy Lands when they died, or they were able to go on a crusade, or their sword was drawn because they died in battle. There's just different things that go with those death effigies that symbolize and kind of tell a story without actually having anything written down. It was just common practice to tell the other people who were visiting, hey, this is what happened with this individual. This is why we are, honoring them in this way with this burial in the church. Looking at different people who were buried there. I mean, there's still people who were in the 1700s, the 1600s. The Attorney General of colonial South Carolina is buried there. So there's people from colonial America who ended up getting buried in the Temple Church in London. So it's a significant spot of burial, but it was not so maintained that it kept the exact same form throughout its whole existence. So and that's still very evident with its current construction. So where it is in the game, it actually is in a lot more open space than it currently is. So I'm going to get off the wall here. You can see standing on top of it here, we've got trees and everything is open all the way out towards the River Thames. Currently, it is kind of in a courtyard. It is in the temple bar area. So, not bar as in drinking bar, but bar as in lawyer's bar. So, this is more of the law area within London. There are a lot of different offices, schools. It's just there's a cluster of buildings that now surround this church, and it's very secluded. You have to go through a few alleyways or closes to get to this church now to actually go visit it. It's a weird spot, knowing how it looks in this game, and then if you go there and visit it, it's very clustered in. So that was something that I thought was interesting when I went to go visit. That it's very hidden from the road now. It's not this very public spot anymore. In it's not a very public spot anymore in the center of London, like it was when it was built. So it's the original circular church building is called the Round Church. It now acts as a nave, so kind of getting back to the construction of the church here. So it now acts as that nave, and there is a set of stairs that you can go up and around. Inside, there's a second level up top there. But because of the growth of the order of the Knights Templar, it became too confined just as that round church, so they had to expand a little bit. So it just ended up growing a little bit more. But of note with the round church, so it's 55 feet in diameter from one side to the other side. And it contains the earliest known freestanding Purbeck marble columns in the world. Within those columns on the inside of the church, so that's just of note because of the type of marble. It was found in England. It was quarried during the Roman times, but this is the earliest example of those columns that we still have in existence, even though it was used during the Roman times. The church from the 1100s is actually the earliest. So it's the reason it had that circular church is because of the Dome of the Rock, which was in Jerusalem. The Templars were very fond of Jerusalem and the Holy Lands. They wanted to pattern a lot of what they did off of that. So that is why it is a round church. It was a very popular style of church back in that time. And it, because of the nature of the Knights Templar and how they constructed things, that is something that is pretty popular through their constructions. But it was eventually seized by the crown after the abolition of the Knights Templar in 1307. So it was then kind of given as a possession to the Knights Hospitalier, who then leased it to some lawyers. So it passed hands as soon as it was no longer belonging to the Templars. It passed hands fairly frequently and commonly. It was used in clergy use. It was used in lawyer use. The inns of the court are around that area, and so that's also different colleges in that area. The colleges and schools for lawyers, the inns of the court. It's just all been used for different purposes throughout time. So now it's more acting as a museum. I don't know if there are any modern church services that go on there, but there is still an organ that is used at the church. There is still choral music and organ recitals that are performed within the church. So that's something that goes on there currently. But like I said, the Germans did actually bomb this church during the Second World War. So it was in May of 1941. German incendiary bombs lit the church's roof on fire. So that was something that spread throughout the whole church. It destroyed parts of the organ, parts of the nave, parts of the chapel. A lot of the Victorian renovations that were done that can be seen in the game here were destroyed, and they had to go back. So they went back and looked at making the renovations older in style instead of the newer style that had taken place. So that's why the church looks the way it does now. it is also listed as a grade 1 historic building for England that was done in 1950. So it's a fantastic spot to visit. It's got a ton of history within it. It is one of the spots in London that you can see that medieval history very evidently, but also have just a lot of history through even more modern times. Like I was saying, there's a South Carolina attorney general from colonial times who's buried there. So it's still more recent history than the 12th century. You're getting someone from the 18th century who's buried there, versus just the 12th century. So it's one of those spots that I do want to get back to visiting. It's a spot that I would love to go and explore again. I feel like just the few, yeah, I don't even know if I was there for an hour, but just that time that I was in the area there was not even enough to soak in all that history. So, quick overview for you guys on the Temple Church in London. We're visiting it in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but it is something that you can actually go out and visit for yourself if you wish to do so. Join me for my next video. I'm hoping I'll get another one put together here soon. But if you guys like this video, let me know. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you can do so. I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next video.